Okay, good evening, everyone. This is Brock Beard from Info coming at you right after the conclusion of the 71st Southern 500 in Darlington. We'll wait for a few more people to come in here. I know that they're just wrapping up the broadcast. I don't know if there were any other fireworks on pit road between Martin Truex and Chase Elliott after the incident that they had there at the end of the race. So if that has come up, we'll certainly address that as well along the way in the show. Definitely had to bring out the FirstPlus financial shirt here again, the same outfit I wore when we covered Darlington last September. And obviously, again, right off the bat, a big thanks to the folks over at Motorsports Business Management for doing the Jerry Nadeau throwback. I thought they did a beautiful job on it. Jerry Nadeau seemed interested in it. I don't know how much more, if the team contacted him or anything like that. I didn't hear anything offhand. But yeah, really, really interesting weekend on all fronts. But first and foremost, we certainly have to talk about an unusual Southern 500, or maybe not unusual in the traditional sense. Much like the Indy 500 we just had recently, the Southern 500 has a long history of having the track playing a role in the outcome of the race. And that was certainly the case in this point. Aggressive maneuvers are not often rewarded that well. And it was starting to seem like when you had the incident between Martin Truex Jr. and Chase Elliott at the end of the race, that they were going to be able to just keep going and run as long as they could with damage on their cars, even though they had a number of laps left. But as we saw with Denny Hamlin and Brad Keselowski earlier in the race, you crunch one of those fenders in on the tire, there's so little clearance, it just wasn't going to work out for them there. A little bit of extra aggression and frustration for Chase Elliott and everything this year. And certainly another unfortunate chapter in what's been kind of an on-again, off-again kind of season for him. You think back to Charlotte and that last-second pit call there that ended up handing the 600 victory to Keselowski. You think to Bristol, we had a very similar incident with Joey Logano and handing Brad Keselowski the victory. And now this incident with Truex, now in the first round of the playoffs, where he now goes into a track next week where, as it was reported in the broadcast, not his best track in the playoffs, and perhaps having to be in a situation where at Bristol, maybe having to pull off some heroics there and pull off a rebound there after his disappointment in the spring race. So we'll see how that's going to work out on that end, and that's going to be something interesting on that point. So we'll certainly talk about that. We'll talk about the last place finishers in all three of the series here. Seeing there, I see the Colt. You're asking about the crew shirt. Yeah, I got this one as a Christmas present a few years ago. Our brother was able to find this online there, and is definitely very appreciative of it. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to wear it over at Darlington or not, because I wasn't sure what the media protocol was. But when two people sitting over next to me were wearing spam gear and other people had other stuff there from other teams, I thought that would be a cool thing to wear from that. But we'll certainly talk about the action here from the Cup Series race, the Xfinity race, and the truck race here as well. But we'll cover all of the action from that. So again, Kevin Harvick, your winner. Austin Dillon, very impressed with him this year. I can't overstate not just the fact that he won over at Texas earlier this year, but also just how consistent he's been, especially on the mile-and-a-half tracks, to not just be in the playoffs, but have a decent spot in the rankings there. Certainly going to be helpful with the runner-up finish tonight, of course, pending the results from technical inspection, and we'll see what happens on that end. Not sure if we're going to go that late, because I know that it's obviously very late on the East Coast here, but we'll certainly do a show and talk about all the action from there. Joey Logano with a good amount of damage, still getting third. Eric Jones and William Byron rounding out your top five. Jimmy Johnson had a great run going there for a lot of that. Ended up 18th, unfortunately, at the end. Denny Hamlin, same situation with him, missing the entrance to pit road as he did in 2017. This time hit the wall a second time after that and ended up only finishing in the 13th spot. Great recovery from Brad Keselowski. Looked like he was hitting the wall very seriously at the beginning of the race. Seemed like that was going to be something he wasn't going to be able to bounce back from. But some pit strategy worked out in his way, his manner. Ends up finishing in the 11th position. Clint Boyer, good to see him do well. Seems like Boyer always has a great throwback, like the Ned Jarrett one he had a couple years ago. Gets collected in an accident or a mechanical issue, like when he finished last with the Mark Martin throwback in 2017. This time around, finally gets a top 10 finish there, and couldn't have come at a better time Now the Darlington is, of course, in the beginning of the playoffs. On the other end of the field, James Davison is unofficially going to be our last car feature for the Cup Series article posted later tonight. I already had the Truck Series article posted earlier today and the Xfinity one from yesterday. But the Cup Series article will unofficially be on Davison, which would be his first last place finish. It was asked earlier if he's the first one to finish last in the Indy 500 and the Southern 500 in the same year, or just ever finishing last in both those events ever. And from what I've seen, the statistics, just from what I was going over in the third stage of tonight's race, it does appear that this is actually the first time that it has happened. So not just Rick Ware's team, unfortunately, finishing last in both the Indy 500 and a Cup race held the same day, back when they had the Dover weekend. But in this case now, last place run for Davison in both the Indy 500 and the Southern 500 in the same year. Not the kind of thing that he wanted to have happen, but there was such low attrition in this race for so much of it that conceivably last place could have fallen to anybody else. It seems like Timmy Hill's situation with the replaced alternator, which cost him about 25 laps, was going to be the difference, and he was going to still end up being your last place finisher, ultimately end up climbing just to the edge of the bottom five in the 35th position. This, incidentally, is now the third straight last place finish for Rick Ware Racing, pending the results of inspection. Of course, the 2017 was last week in Daytona, with Yaley having early mechanical issues, and then the crash that collected Joey Gase at Dover that had the sweep with the Indy 500 the week before that. So an unfortunate stretch there. But that's now 3 of the 4 teams under the Rick Ware banner, excepting the number 15 team, the former Premium Motorsports entry of Brennan Poole will be the other one. We'll see if that's going to be the situation next week over at Richmond. But yeah, an interesting deal and very, very competitive racing this weekend. I got to say, I think we saw a little bit of everything, a little bit of regular long green flag runs and maybe some stretches runs that weren't quite as competitive, but certainly some fireworks. A little bit less so in the Truck Series, although with the pit road penalty for Sheldon Creed. Certainly threw something into the mix there. And then the Xfinity Series, absolutely outstanding finish there between Ross Chastain and Denny Hamlin, and then ultimately Brandon Jones joining that. We'll talk about all of that at the same time as we cover this as well. So really, an unusually competitive stretch here. Even though it's the playoffs and not the playoffs for all 3 of the series, I think they put on a decent show, and we'll see what happens from there. But unofficially, your bottom 5 for the Cup Series race: James Davison in the last spot from what was reported to actually be an engine problem on the number 53. Had an overheating issue. The engine started laying down, and then he pulled behind the wall. He was some laps ahead of Timmy Hill. Passed Hill for last place about lap 194, if memory serves correctly. And dropping back to the 39th spot. Bubba Wallace also had issues. He had a leak earlier in the race that may have contributed to the reason that he fell out in the 38th spot. Corey LaJoie rear-ended, looked like Joey Logano there on that restart at the end, stoved in the nose of the number 32 car, ends up 37th. John Hunter Nemechek had a pretty hard hit at one point, taking 36th. And, of course, you mentioned Timmy Hill with the alternator issue, rounding out the bottom 5. This, again, unofficially pending the results of inspection. Lots of good throwback schemes in the field. I was very happy to see the Kenny Irwin throwback for J.J. Yaley, especially after having done the 3 before February video. We didn't talk too much about his time at Blair Motorsports in that video, but one thing that's very cool about the 27 that they particularly ran here is this is a scheme that never actually got to compete on the racetrack in a race. This was a scheme that Irwin was running for Blair at Rockingham in 1997, unfortunately didn't make the cut, and that was the only time that it ran. There were other paint schemes he did for G.I. Joe and Tonka. So those were other Hasbro brands that were sponsoring him at the time. But it's good to see that car get back out there, and I really like the job that Rick Ware Racing and whoever designed their paint scheme on that did a fantastic job on it. Also keeping it on a Ford to kind of be an update of the old Thunderbird that Irwin would have run back in 1997. So a good deal on that. 30th place unofficially for him, 7 laps down at the finish, but still running under power. I mentioned Brennan Poole earlier, the other Rick Ware entry. finishing in the 28th spot, 5 laps down. I was kind of hoping that maybe he'd have a little bit more of a solid top 25 finish, because he was back in, I think, the second race in May when we returned from the suspension of the season. It seemed like Poole had a good run working out there. Unfortunately, the car kind of fell apart on him there towards the end, but he seemed to have a decent run there. But back a bit further in the order, 5 laps down, showing for Poole. Ryan Blaney, I saw that mentioned in the comments here. Yeah, an unfortunate situation for him with the crew chief, with the weight that was left in the car. He's certainly starting from a bit of a deficit in the playoffs right at the start. Again, a bad time for that to happen. And we have a very similar situation to what Eric Jones has traditionally seen in a lot of these playoff runs, where he just has bad luck, or in one particular case, a disqualification at Richmond with a great run last year that ultimately took him out. And then even before that, a wreck at Las Vegas that kept him out of the running in that same standpoint too. So Blaney is going to have his work cut out for him. He's certainly very good at Bristol in this group here. He had seemed like he had that spring race won earlier this year. He was kind of cruising there, and he's been in that position before in the spring race. Unfortunately, got collected in an accident and ended up in last place in that one. Hopefully, he's hoping for something certainly much better this time around in the summer race. I'm not sure what's going to shake out in the Richmond race, given that they cut down from 2 races to 1 this year when they reorganized the schedule. People are going to be kind of approaching that race with a bit of an emptier notebook than they would have ordinarily had. But that's going to be an interesting situation next week. And Blaney's worst track at Richmond, boy, I mean, that's a rough deal there, but a different situation there certainly for that team. Got to look ahead. I mean, we'll see if Chase Elliott can dig something out there. I think poor Chase has just had an unfortunate trend this year with a lot of the bad luck here. And Truex is the same point, even though he's won the Southern 500 not too long ago when he was running for Furniture Row Racing. He also had another run when we were there in 2017 where he blew a tire and hit the wall very late in the race, much like this one, and handed the victory over to Denny Hamlin. Again, another bit of a late race tangle there, much like the tangles that you see like how Terry Labonte won his first race, everybody running over each other, and had a different situation there. Blaney is, going to have a very difficult stretch ahead of him. Matt DiBenedetto at the same time. Seemed like he was working very hard. I like the throwback on the Tiny Lund part, where it's Marvin Panch's car, has Panch's name on the other side of it, and then Tiny Lund's name on there. For those of you who don't know the story, that was an incident where Marvin Panch was running a support race before the 1963 Daytona 500. Panch was injured. He was pinned inside a car that had wrecked at Daytona, and Lund jumped the fence and helped get him back out of the car. And when Panch wasn't able to start the Daytona 500, he tabbed Lund to drive it. Lund got in the car, won the Daytona 500 with his name as the replacement driver just taped onto the frame rail there, and pulled off an impressive victory, the first of his Cup Series career. He tragically lost his life years later in a wreck at Talladega, but was one of the most popular drivers in the circuit. It was good to see him get a throwback out there. I think we saw that with a lot of the throwbacks here. Even Bryant Barnhill in the Truck Series race, the last place finisher from there, doing a throwback to Chad McCumbee. That's a name I haven't really heard of since back in 2008 when he was driving for Petty Enterprises, relieving for Kyle Petty down the stretch run there. Kind of a different situation from there. I like Tom Baldwin's throwback that Josh Palicki ran, the number 7 car. I think it was a nice, simple paint scheme. Looked pretty cool, but certainly the Jerry Nadeau one was definitely my personal vote for best in show, at least on the Xfinity Series side. There's some great competition in the Cups and Trucks. And definitely mention in the comments here what your favorite throwbacks were as well. We'll maybe have an unofficial poll from here as well. Marvin, welcome aboard here as well. I see you on here, somebody from Hong Kong. My goodness, I don't even know what time of day it would be for you over there, but certainly thank you for checking out. We got an interesting group. I like the Jimmy Johnson one. I really thought the Johnson throwback was good. I know it has mixed feelings, which is probably appropriate with the mixed paint scheme. But I liked what Jimmy did with the Richard Petty hat and the Dale Earnhardt sunglasses. I think that was a nice salute to the both of them. And I think, quite frankly, an unexpected one. I figured he was going to do a throwback to maybe the first car that he was planned to run in 2002. Maybe the first unveiling of the Lowe's paint scheme. Although we saw a bit of that already when he did the Power of Pride car before that. and when Lowe's was scaling back before that. So I guess not entirely unprecedented in that same standpoint. But definitely an interesting stretch run here. But great runs throughout the field there, and talking about that. Some quietly solid runs as well. Matt Kenseth in the 14th spot, although it's unfortunate that the Chip Ganassi team didn't run a throwback on either of their cars. They usually seem to have some of the best ones, whether it was the Coors Light car that Larson drove a couple years ago, or Kurt Busch's Camaro car, I think was surprisingly good, even though it probably didn't show very well on TV. In person, that one looked really well. And then the surprising collection of Elliott Sadler throwbacks we ended up having in this one. Of course, Kyle Busch getting a solid 7th place finish, although for him, certainly a victory is something he's still looking at. And Richmond and Bristol are two tracks where traditionally he'd be a favorite at. We'll see if he's really going to be back in position to get a decent run. Of course, last year at Darlington, he was even closer to victory, chasing down Eric Jones until Jones cruised away at the end, and Kyle Larson being a factor in that finish as well. But yeah, again, I keep looking at the results, and I keep just being impressed by Austin Dillon. I think he's really made a statement this year in the number 3 car. I think it would have been great if he won in the 3 car just because of that statement they brought up earlier in the broadcast that Junior Johnson never won the Southern 500 as a driver, but certainly did as an owner. I mean, you have drivers like Cale Yarborough and Bill Elliott. You're going to do pretty well for yourself. Darrell Waltrip, of course. But very close to that, had a great rally at the end. It looked like Harvick had something wrong with his car going to turns 3 and 4 that final time by, and it looked like Dillon was going to be able to put the Ricky Craven move on him or something, and just didn't quite shake out there. But it really does make a case for why Darlington is as exciting of a track as it is, even when you have an aero package that's not really that good for it in the Cup Series like we have this year. Obviously, the package in the trucks and especially Xfinity were far superior. Still manages to put on a decent show, at least for the finish there. So a good way that it shook out. Yeah, Andrew, yeah, you mentioned the Stavola Brothers paint scheme. Yeah, I really like that one as well. So that was certainly an interesting one here too. Let's see. So we kind of covered that. If you have any other questions, certainly on the Cup Series race or any of these other ones, we'll certainly cover that as well. But unofficially, again, James Davison, your last place finisher for the Cup Series race today, and the Tom Sneva throwback. The fun thing with throwback weekend, even the last place finishers, we can talk about the theming behind the different teams. And I'm glad there was at least one that had a throwback, so we can actually do a bit of a feature on that. So I'm going to kind of take a little extra time with that tonight and get a little bit of extra information. Actually, you mentioned Tom Sneva. We were talking about open wheel drivers getting last in the 500 at the same time as the Indy 500. This is technically a little different scenario, but you almost had a situation like that, at least in terms of a tribute there. Let me look back here. I guess we'll do we'll probably save the Xfinity race for last year. Truck Series race, again, heartbreak absolutely for Sheldon Creed. During the race today, it looked like he had that one well in hand after things were shaken out with other drivers up there. But Ben Rhodes ends up taking the victory. Derek Kraus with a great run there. The Ron Hornaday truck, I think that was one of the best ones. Probably my favorite throwback from the Truck Series race has to be Dawson Cram's one. I know I've already mentioned this on Twitter, but I loved the throwback to Tim Flock's Hudson Hornet, that bright blue and white, very summery kind of color scheme with the number 41 on the door in place of the number 91 that Flock had. And then the Jocko Flocko monkey that was like strapped to the frame rails, roll cage in there. And I didn't notice that it had like Jocko's name on the roof rail on the passenger side. They just went all out. And I think that was such a cool thing because Cram's team just made its first ever start last week at Gateway. And you could tell that even with a team that new, they were chomping at the bit to get a decent throwback out there. And I think that one had to be my favorite from the Truck Series one. I thought they did a great job on that. It's unfortunate he got in one of those accidents there. He got turned on the backstretch. Ends up being next to last the running order, just ahead of Barnhill. Barnhill, though, with a scary bit of an incident there at the beginning of that race. I had been listening to his radio because he had dropped to the back there behind Norm Benning in the early laps, and he reported that the throttle stuck going into one of the corners. I believe it was into turns 1 and 2, and just plowed the wall there, unfortunately. Obviously, again, we talk a bit about 3 before February and how serious stuck throttles can certainly be. Didn't hear more updates exactly as to what happened on the number 33. And it sounded like we were almost going to have some concerns about that in the Cup Series race tonight. as Denny Hamlin was a bit concerned about the actual issues with the throttle before the race started. But good to see Barnhill get out of the car okay, at least as far as last reports were indicated there. But a very hard hit there that ended up taking the Riam truck out of the race very early. Josh Riam, the team owner himself, had a very nice Rusty Wallace throwback, ended up wrecking on the backstretch as well. But Barnhill ended up being our last place feature ahead of Dawson Cram in the Truck Series race earlier today. And the first Truck Series race since 2011 at Darlington, which was itself significant there. So long ago that I forgot that I actually still had Truck Series articles from that year, which is why I linked the one to Brad Sweet that I did back then. I'm still surprised seeing those older articles. I didn't really go that much in depth into like a driver profile and more of what happened during the race weekend. I try to kind of take a different approach from now to then. If nothing else, it was kind of an interesting comparison, at least in changing my strategy with the writing there at the same time. Yeah, an interesting way that all played out. But Derek Kraus, very impressed with him, and of course Timmy Hill. Have to mention him, of course. While he did have a lot of struggles in the Cup Series race, his team there with I believe it's their second best finish for the Hill Motorsports team. They didn't even have sponsorship on there. Did a very simple throwback to their father, Timmy and Tyler's father, Jerry Hill, who ran the 56 for a lot of his Cup Series career when he was jumping over from ARCA to Cup at the same time, but also running trucks for Rick Ware back when it was Ware Racing Enterprises back in the early 2000s, running a simple throwback to Jerry's truck there, finishing in the 9th spot. Great run for him. I believe he was running about 6th or 7th before the race restarted there in overtime. So a decision to stay out there on old tires ended up paying off for him, whereas it didn't in the earlier stages of the race. And luckily, he was able to keep all 4 fenders on it and be able to be a factor there at the end of the race. Looking further back again at the back of the field, Norm Benning had another unfortunate run there. I know it says handling on there, but he was actually parked because he was not maintaining minimum speed. He was black flagged twice in the early laps of the race. NASCAR officials said that he was, quote, nowhere near meeting minimum speed, which is heartbreaking for that team. They're really doing the best they can, but unfortunately, Darlington is much like these concrete tracks, and we've seen the minimum speed issue be a much bigger factor in deciding the bottom 5 of these races. Dover and Bristol seems like that comes up constantly. But Norm Benning only making it 52 laps in before being cited with handling issues on that. Johnny Sauter, talk about frustrations. I was listening to the radio at the time that he was pulling behind the wall, but I'm sure he dropped quite a few F-bombs on the radio there from what I heard from Dustin Albino and the others that were transcribing it there. Not happy with another engine failure, dropping him back to the bottom 5, now in a must-win situation at Richmond if he has any hopes of making the playoffs for this year in the Truck Series. Unfortunately, ends up in the 31st spot there, following up his last place finish at Gateway with a 31st place finish on number 13 this week. The number 13 certainly not the lucky number for him this season. Jennifer Jo Cobb rounding out the bottom 5. She actually finished the race under power, about 5 laps down at the end of the field there. Everybody else able to keep in close contact there. Other throwbacks I think were fantastic of that. I love the Clay Greenfield one, the Bobby Hamilton throwback, Country Time car. That's one that I have fond memories of back in the early 90s. I think the yellow and pink scheme really stood out. Obviously, whether the yellow pink scheme that they ran on the TriStar Motorsports car, this is the same Mark Smith-owned team that had actually been filing the number 72 car more recently. But a different situation there for that team. But really good to see it on number 68. I mean, if you have a team that has a particular car number, shows a little bit of imagination that you can actually run another paint scheme where they made that number famous. So kudos to them. I noticed they even made the B post black so that it kind of resembled, not directly, but the kind of continuous contour that's on the back of the Oldsmobile Cutlass that they ran back then, where you don't really even see the C post that well. It almost looks like it's just one continuous rear glass in the back of the car. That was kind of the distinctive mark that you see when you even see those late 80s, early 90s Oldsmobiles of that era. I thought that was a really good one there. Ty Majeski's I thought was really good and had kind of an interesting feel to it. Kind of reminded me more of like the Mueller Brothers cars, like the 89s and all that. Although I think the number 45 made it seem more like a maybe a Ken Reagan or something kind of throwback there. But I thought that was a pretty neat deal that he had going at the same time. But Ben Rhodes ending a long losing streak for him. Good to see him actually get kind of a decent run here at the same time. So that would be an interesting one. Let's see. Okay, and I see the question about Morgan Shepherd. I have a way to kind of roll that in with the other discussion because I do have. It's been a very busy week, and I have a couple of things that I certainly need to make sure we touch up on. Maybe we'll do this now and kind of break up the flow here, so it's not just entirely what you've been seeing already. So one big thing that came up this past week over here at the channel is that I have a new series that I'm starting. And it's called Rise of the Field Fillers. And I'm very pleased with the response so far on the trailer. I just kind of put that together. I wanted to kind of make a foothold here, even though the first episode is still coming together. And it is indeed going to be an episodic series. It's not going to be just one video. It's going to be multiple videos focusing on a particular group of underfunded teams that were a big story during the 2004 season. I know I was asked a while back, I think on the last show, what my favorite season was and just in general. If I were to consider a great season in terms of underfunded teams, that would have been a really interesting one to cover if I had been doing NASCAR back then. It would have to be the 2004 season. As you'll see in the series, there were a lot of interesting and unusual teams that were running back then. A very unusual set of circumstances that allowed them to actually get more starts than they traditionally would have been. And that's going to be a really exciting story to kind of bring up. I've actually had to really kind of juggle the stuff for the website with this because I've been able to kind of cobble together a lot of this information on that. And one thing that's going to be interesting with that is that the thing with this series, the reason that it kind of came together and the reason it's exactly on 2004, this was originally going to be my next book after the J.D. McDuffie book. And I'd had it sitting on my hard drive. When the JD book was actually out, I decided to kind of go in a different direction, and that's still going to happen. That's still a book that is pretty much ready for publishing. We're still kind of working on some details there. I actually just did another interview on this book there, so that's still happening. But this was going to be something I was going to work on maybe later on and make into a book. But the more I worked on it, one reason I switched subjects on it is it really didn't, it wasn't a subject that seemed to lend itself very well to a book because it's got a much more visual component to it. Much like 3 Before February, there's certain interviews that's best that you really hear them. There's certain bits of information that are really easier to understand when you actually see them. If this was ever made into a book, which probably would have been a decent one, it would have had to have so many pictures in it, it would probably just end up being a picture book. And I'm not sure if I could have found somebody that was going to be interested in selling it. I think it also would have been very difficult to market it because it's the kind of story that's interesting to me, but I'm not sure if it would be interested to the public at large, at least for a book. Now, for a video series, I think it's going to work pretty well because my approach is going to be kind of, again, a lot like with my other projects, kind of how to be chronological through the 2004 season, but breaking it up by drivers and teams, breaking it up in such a way that it's not, you're not going to have to bounce back and forth. I received an interesting comment on 3 Before February, and I think that kind of helped set this off. One person said that they had a very difficult time following the story in 3 Before February because you're following these 3 different drivers and other things that are happening. And even though the whole thing is chronological, it's hard to keep straight with where each person is in that phase. Now, I think realistically, it probably wouldn't have been a good idea to divide that into 3 different videos. I could have done one just on Adam Petty, one just on Kenny Irwin, and one just on Tony Roper. But I think it's the similarities of them and understanding the overall sensation of that season, that the developing safety discussion that happened through the year that makes it a little better, which is why there's divisions in there that say this is the part that focuses on Adam and the controversy and then so forth from there. But the comment did make me think about this project because I think in this one, it would have been very difficult to, have it be one continuous book because I would have had to jump back and forth a lot. And I think in this video series, at least the way that I have it kind of thought out, we'll see how it goes. I know which one's going to be the first 2 episodes are going to be. From there, it's pretty free form. And I think I think once I get those two done, I'll have a better idea of where it's going to go. But again, those of you who are in the Last Car Patreon, much like with the other videos before, you'll have advanced access to these videos when they are ready. We're still working on release dates for those, and we'll have some more information on that coming up. But that was a very bit of exciting deals with that this year, and I think it's going to be a good follow-up to a lot of the other content on the channel there as well. So, and it's something I think I could do for a longer time instead of just doing some standalone videos that kind of hop around different time periods and stuff. So we'll see what I do in some of these other videos, but that's going to be interesting here at the same time. So look forward to that. If you haven't seen the trailer's on this channel. It'll be the most recent video, certainly before this one. And you can certainly check that out. We made that publicly available, I think, on Thursday, if I remember correctly. So we'll cover that from there. We'll go ahead and jump into the Xfinity race as well. We'll have some more information here at the same time. Brandon Jones, what a run for him. I thought, again, if we're talking about best throwbacks that were in that race, a throwback not just to a driver, but to a series, to commemorate the Goodies Dash series with the Robert Huffman car, in the number 37 car. I didn't watch a lot of the Goodies Dash series growing up, but I was familiar enough with that car that it stood out. That yellow apple juice car with the apples on the doors and the big white logo on the hood. And then the fact that it was a Toyota Celica, being a vast precursor to seeing Toyota in the truck series, then eventually Xfinity and Cup, and now as prolific as they are today. I think that was an extremely fitting tribute to that as well. And kudos to the folks there over at Joe Gibbs Racing for putting together that video where they showed like one of Huffman's old cars in the garage area covered with dust, left pretty much untouched since the series last ran. Really drove home that throwback aspect. That's something I'd like to see a lot more of in the series and these other throwback weekends coming up in years later. Hopefully we get, by the time they do throwback season next year, people have more access to be able to go in the infield and get even more pictures of these cars. But this year, that was really one of the showstoppers, I would say. And it was exciting, not just to see that great race between Denny Hamlin and Ross Chastain at the end of the race. And kudos to Chastain in that same one there. Hamlin found himself stuck between a rock and a hard place there. And the two of them put on an absolute clinic. Have to say, I love Dale Jarrett's call of that finish. I literally got chills when he said that Chastain was driving the hell out of that car. I thought that was just the coolest thing. And as I mentioned in my video on the late 90s NASCAR, Dale Jarrett was one of the best drivers to ever run at Darlington. He got that from his father for sure. Gentleman Ned having the largest margin of victory at the same track. Dale Jarrett is an outstanding racer at Darlington, had been through this whole career. He mentioned his near miss in getting the Winston Million in 1996, which is was another commentary on how good he was at crown jewel races. We mentioned Austin Dillon in the same breath in there, but to get that kind of a thumbs up from Dale Jarrett in that kind of a race there, I think that was a real stamp of approval on Chastain. I know Chastain has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. You just think back a couple weeks to the races at Daytona and the tangle between himself and AJ Allmendinger. He certainly ruffled more than his share of feathers, but the kid's determined, and that was another bit of a clinic there. And when you get a couple of guys out there where one guy is trying to hold somebody off on older tires and another guy's got a faster car, it's not hard to think about the 2003 finish between Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch with very similar circumstances. And in that one, you did have a yellow car that back then driven by Dave Blaney, Ryan's father, in the Jasper Engines and Transmissions cars. He was actually, as reported by Mike Joy in that famous call with Larry Mack and Darrell Waltrip, Blaney was the fastest car on the track at the end and was catching Craven and Busch as they were running into each other. In that one case, they were able to run into each other right across the stripe, and Blaney wasn't able to quite get there. But in this one, it happened with 2 laps to go, and Brandon Jones was able to capitalize as the two put each other in the wall. Great race. The last 15 laps of the race is exactly what Darlington is all about, and has really been another reason that I would say that I have really enjoyed watching the Xfinity series so much more these last couple of years. Not just getting the Cup guys out of there, which has been a big part of it. That was the first step to getting it better. But having this other package that's not affected by these ridiculous aero rules that they're running in the Cup series where people can't pass. I mean, people are just running over each other and really physical racing. How many cars do we see in that Xfinity race, whether it was Jones's car or Michael Annette's Oreo car or some of these other ones, just had tire marks all over them. Very physical racing out there. Would have loved to be there to see it. They put on an absolute clinic out there in that, and that was really enjoyable to see. Austin Hill with a great run, the 61 car in that race, finishing right behind Michael Annette in the Oreo car. I think that was one of the great throwbacks in that one there as well. Not Austin Hill. He had a different sponsorship, but Michael Annette's for sure. Justin Haley, BJ McLeod, he didn't have a throwback on, the 78 car there. But him getting back in the 78, bouncing back from his last place run in last year's Southern 500, finishing the 14th spot. A great run after Vinnie Miller getting the 11th place run at Daytona last week. The BJ McLeod team, again, they're ones that are right on the cusp. These are the same guys that gave Tommy Joe Martins one of his first great runs at Iowa a few years ago. They're a fun team to watch, even when they don't quite have the throwback schemes on there. But at the other end of the field, the unfortunate deal there with Daniel Hemrick, terrible luck for him just continues. When he's not about 8th or better, he's been 31st or worse, and it's just been a continual struggle there as he continues to search for his first Xfinity Series victory. He also had one of the best throwbacks out there, certainly to the late John Andretti. It was interesting in doing the research for that article, finding out that Andretti won the pole for the Southern 500 in that paint scheme. And I believe it was for the Southern 500. I don't think it was the spring race, but I know it was at Darlington. And then it was at Darlington again that he ran his last race in that car before he swapped rides with Jeremy Mayfield at Cale Yarborough Motorsports. And then with Yarborough, Andretti actually scored his first Cup win at Daytona, the July race just the next year in 1997. Hemrick, I know he was excited about the scheme there. It was unfortunate that didn't shake out there. But Hemrick in that crash at the very beginning, a deal not really of his making. Alfredo broke loose there off the second corner, put himself and the number 7 of Algar in the wall. Apparently, Kyle Weatherman got some damage in the chain reaction, although we didn't really see that in the footage of the broadcast. 47 car ended up getting next to last as a result of that. Stephen Light, I like the Carl Long 2002 throwback on his car there, even though they misspelled Light's name on the roof rail, but you do whatever you can on that. The 66 ended up getting 35th. Only 11 laps for him, but still an improvement given that they only completed 1 lap in the spring race at Darlington back in May. When they returned, the handling was a real big issue. Speaking of handling, Brett Moffitt with the oil leak that caused the incident that put Chase Briscoe in the wall and a couple other competitors there. Moffitt ended up in the bottom 5 just ahead of David Starr, who, much like Barnhill in the Truck Series race, had a very hard hit to the outside wall. Good to see him climb out of the Richardson service, number 07 there for SS Greenlight Racing, but ended up finishing in the 34th position. Other runs through there, I liked Ryan Vargas's Jimmy Johnson throwback in the 25th spot there. A little bit further back in the running order, Tommy Joe Martins, also with the Darrell Waltrip throwback, running the number 44 in place of the 11. Brandon Brown. Oh, yeah, we got to talk about the big ones here. We have to certainly talk about. They're featured in the Xfinity article. Have to talk about the drivers that were able to recover from serious damage early in the race. I know we talked about this a little bit in the Cup race, certainly with Brad Keselowski comes to mind. But in the Xfinity Series race, another commentary on this great aero package that they have, having Ryan Sieg get that damage in the exact same incident that collected Daniel Hemrick, being able to recover, have the lead at the end of the race. How many times have we seen it this year? Ryan Sieg is up there at the front of the pack in a car that maybe isn't up there all day, but has a chance at actually leading and maybe taking a win away in the last 5 laps or an overtime finish. It seems like it's about every other week all of a sudden here. Sieg trying to get up there. He had a couple corners, the right front, and I believe the left rear were all taped up, trying to hold it together. Still gets a 3rd place finish, holding off Riley Herbst and damaged Denny Hamlin there at the end. A great run for him. And in the same token there, also have to talk about Brandon Brown, trying to defend his spot in the playoffs there. Love the throwback for Janet Guthrie, even though the paint scheme itself wasn't necessarily the right color. I'm colorblind, so that didn't bother me too much. I'm sure to other people it probably stood out quite a bit more. But I really like that he was able to recover and get a 17th place finish. Showed a really gutsy performance. Looked like he was maybe even going to get a top 15 out of that in 68, which would have been even better there. But a great run for him. I know they did the commentary on his father, Jerry Brown, recovering from cancer treatment. recently ringing the bell over at the clinic there. So certainly thoughts with him. But certainly a great run for the number 68 team, and good to see them get a good run out there. And Myatt Snyder, RSS Racing, not just with Ryan C, but also Snyder getting the 10th place finish. And what was a pretty cool throwback there, something very old school. I believe it was like Bill Blair's car or something around that era, like an old modified. A lot of modified cars got featured this time around between Stuart Friesen and Josh Bilicki and some of these others. I think that was really cool to see. I admit that's not exactly a part that I'm quite as intimately familiar with compared to the Cup Series, but it's certainly good to see because you can get a lot of interesting paint schemes. DGM Racing, Mario Gosselin's team, for example, bringing back schemes using the Hooters Pro Cup Series, which I think then became the X1R Pro Cup Series. While I don't remember the Goodies Dash Series that much, I do remember more the Hooters Pro Cup things because those were on like Speed Channel like all the time back then. It was cool to see those paint schemes out there and finishing pretty well. With LeBay in the 16th spot and Williams in the 15th spot. So good effort for both of them. So really, again, a lot of exciting things to talk about there during the race. Did I see Chase Elliott do anything with the? Oh my goodness, no, I didn't see MLG Pro Swag. I didn't see any Chase Elliott's interview after the race there, but yeah, if he. I don't know if there was anything that happened there behind the scenes. It could have been when you mentioned, having bloody knuckles or something. I'm kind of reminded of, Kyle Petty broke his hand in frustration at once. I think it was in Michigan in 2007, and he missed a race at Bristol as a result. And that harkened back to Davey Allison did that going into Watkins Glen in '91. Sometimes that happens there, but yeah, I think that's probably what you kind of had there. Denny Hamlin had a thing too, where he had a serious hand injury. I think it was in 2010, I believe, maybe 2009, where he was like messing around with his crew and his hand got caught on a bumper of like the hauler or something and had an injury. So there's a long history of hand injuries in racing, and if obviously people crafting casts that are in a certain shape so you can get it on the wheel and actually maneuver it around there, but that would be a whole other story, maybe something for an article in and of itself. But again, the starring role for the Xfinity Series, got to talk about Chad Fincham and the Crash Claims RS, Elliott Marino, FirstPlus Financial, number 13 throwback, 20th place finish. Great run for Fincham. And as pointed out by others, that's not the only great run Fincham has had this year, even the last couple of years. He continues to outperform in that motorsports business management effort there. And they keep having this, game of round robin where they're, or musical chairs, I guess, rather, swapping one ride to the other and doing the best they can. But I think that was a beautiful job. I remember talking with Wookie, Sebastian LaForge there over at the MBM team last year, and I was wearing this shirt there, and they were thinking about doing something like that because he was working the 13 crew. So I think he had the Merino hat, and then he was wearing like an old Dick Trickle hat for when he was working the 66 crew at the Cup Series side. So the motorsports business management team, they're definitely passionate about the throwback there, and when they do, they go all in. So that was good to see. And it was even cooler that it was on an old Camry. See kind of this old throwback to even using like older cars and everything. I know the render was on a Supra, but I thought that was pretty neat. So undoubtedly my favorite one from the Xfinity Series. So yeah, I would have to say, yeah, the Jerry Nadeau one on the Xfinity Series side, the Tim Flock one on the Truck Series side. And then for for the Cup Series, gosh, I mean, it's a real toss-up. The Jimmy Johnson ones were a lot of fun. I think I liked the 48 one a lot. Not sure if I would say it was my absolute top favorite. I like Bilicki's a lot just for the simplicity of it, but that one's a little harder to tell. But probably between those two would be something along those lines at the same time. I did hear about the situation there with the Formula One race. Steve Russ, I see your comment on there. Congratulations to I don't follow the series that much. Was it Gasly that won? Fantastic run for him, whoever it was in there. Great effort for him there. I just saw the tweets show up on my list there, and obviously people are excited about it. First time winner in any motorsport is fantastic in that sense, and certainly in Formula One where it's basically. I think it was Takuma Sato that came out at one point and said, it's no Mercedes, no chance in Formula One these days. And it's very rare. You kind of have to count on misfortunes by the other teams rather than straight out driving them. That's still an aspect of Formula One I'm not crazy about. but it doesn't take away from the accomplishment of actually getting out there because you're under the same controls as everybody else. So a good run for them as well. So so crazy deals with all that. So it's really kind of an interesting scenario there. So a couple of things. So another thing I need to bring up here along the way here. I know that I mentioned we're looking into doing coverage for Phoenix in November. That's been the plan this whole year. But in the words of Kyle Busch, it's 2020, and unfortunately we had a bit of a wrench got thrown into that. Wasn't an issue of like, you know, being able to go there or anything like that, but obviously the restrictions in the playoff races in terms of capacity and not being able to really kind of work something out on that. We didn't have any kind of arrangements set up on that earlier on that. Looks like we're not going to be able to do Phoenix this year for the coverage, which is unfortunate. I was already kind of halfway, you know, debating about doing it because I don't like that we don't have access to the garage area. And quite frankly, if I'm just up in the press box, it looks like, you know, there's really not much more. I mean, I can see if somebody's going in the garage area, but I really like being able to have that extra step to be able to interview somebody there. So, yeah, so it's an unfortunate deal with that. I really want to make sure see if we can cram one more in here this year. We're going to look at Las Vegas and see if that's possible because that's one that's still within somewhat of a driving distance for us. I don't know what the situation is with that, but yeah, I mean the restriction, basically the crowd restrictions over at Phoenix when they had just as few people as they were having. I mean, you know, it's myself and our brother going down there. If we can't get a ticket for him, I'm not going to just, you know, it's going to be the same situation in the press box, and I'm sure it's going to be very difficult to try to get any access there. Because the media center is very big, but that's in the infield. And if they're not letting us go in the infield, then I know they're not going to have a lot of seats. And I know that the beat reporters are going to be higher priority than somebody like me on the side. Like I say, I'm going to see if we can do something with Vegas. SMI tracks are a little different than ISC tracks. We can try to work something out with that. But worst case scenario, we may just be hitting the reset button there for last year. But I hope certainly that, you know, we get the, you know, the garage restrictions start getting loosened up a little bit and we start doing some more of the trackside coverage. So if you're a member of the Patreon and you join the Patreon just because of the trackside stuff, you know, I certainly don't begrudge you if you're changing your plans on your backing on that from that. But I will say that if you are in the Patreon, whether you change your level or you cancel or whatever like that, your name's still going to be on the next magnet whenever we do a race. If it's the end of this year, if it's the beginning of next year, if it's not even until Sears Point next June, which it may well be, who knows at this point, your name's still going to be on the magnet. You'll be entered in the drawing. So we're not going to do any changes on that. So the least they can certainly do on that. We're going to do trivia too, Blake. I want to make sure I get this out there at the same time. But yeah, so that's kind of where we are right now with that. So I do apologize on that because that's, you know, it's just kind of crazy stuff this year. But certainly, certainly the way they planned out the schedule has been challenging. I can't imagine how people that are beat reporters that do this every week are doing it. Luckily, I have some flexibility from my current arrangements here, but we have some other deals here at the same time. So yeah, we're going to look at what we can do for next year. I mean, I'm almost thinking, I don't want to say that we're waiting until the garage is open in general. I'm open to it. If it's easy to do a race that's relatively close by and do it from the press box, it's better than nothing. Maybe I can get something going, but I'm really not looking at doing a whole lot of like longer travel trips until they're really going to loosen this up. I'm very disappointed that the playoff races weren't treated any differently. I really thought they would be, especially I figured for the championship one, they just say, heck with it. We'll have it be full crowd and open the infield and do all that because what the heck, it's a championship. I figured they want to have more people there. It was perhaps naive to think that, but obviously with the confirmation this week, that's where we ended up with that. So, but luckily with what we do here at NASCAR, we are very much a part-timer. We just do these races whenever we can. And hopefully before too much longer, we'll be covering some more races here again, and we'll bring some more up on that at the same time. But yeah, I'm with you there, Andrew. Yeah, 2020 is a write-off. Yeah, pretty much. But I'm very glad that we did Fontana this year. I think that was the important thing. We maintained. I think the important thing, the big reason I like doing the trackside stuff is I think it's important that we maintain a presence at the track at least once a year. And Sears Points usually are one that we do. Obviously, this year that changed up around. But we did do Fontana this year, and you know, it's much like on the racing side. It's, you know, what have you done for me lately in the sport? You have to kind of maintain a presence out there to kind of keep that going. And hopefully we're going to be back to something closer to normal in 2021, and we'll try some new stuff here at the same time. Bruce, you can say I should call it Sonoma, not Sears Point. I'm going to keep calling it Sears Point. It's Sears Point, okay? Come on. I'm wearing the Jerry Nadeau shirt. It was Sears Point in 1998 also. So it's Throwback weekend. The Throwback is everything. You notice on Sonoma Raceway's Twitter, they even use the old Sears Point logo. So there's that one too. I guess we could do, yeah, we could keep calling it. We could call it Infineon too. That would be fun. I mean, that was weird. Of course, you know, again, as I said, you know, Sonoma's a city. Infineon's a company. Talk about the track. It's Sears Point. It's located at Sears Point. Road courses should have 2-word names. Even Mid-Ohio technically counts, even if it's hyphenated and so forth. So we'll do some trivia here and everything here too. We'll jump into that here at the same time. I have one more thing to show here. I have this just off camera. Let me try to figure out the best way to do this. So I recently received in the mail. Oh, it's not showing up on the camera, so we're going to have to move this around here. You can probably see it a little bit there. There we go. That right there. I received this just in the mail from Leslie Demers, whose husband, Mike Demers, passed away last year. For those of you who don't know, Mike Demers is was the crew chief for J.D. McDuffie, including his final start at Watkins Glen in August of 1991. He passed away just last year, and I was talking with his wife, and you know, I was you know telling her, of course, how much I appreciated his help with the book as well as hers, and you know, we were talking about, you know, and everything on that, and just the other day I received this package in the mail, and this model right here, Mike did not make this model. It was made by a friend of his, but it was on his desk up until he passed, and I received it in the mail, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to try to find the best possible place for that once things certainly get settled up here. So yeah, this model here, this is more like the 1988 paint scheme on the Rumpel Pontiac, but it means certainly a great deal. So Leslie, certainly if you're watching, definitely appreciate the model here. I'll post some pictures on the Twitter as well, so you can get kind of a better look at it there. But I just wanted to make sure I brought that up. Certainly with Throwback Weekend, it's as much about remembering the past as it is acknowledging the present time here at the same time. So certainly wanted to make sure I mentioned that there too. So we'll get into trivia here, and we'll jump into this here at the same time. But yeah, oh, I'm glad you like the couch and the carpet there. Yeah, this is our media room here. We had the screen that we did in some of the shows last year. That was in the background. We had that before, so we're still moving stuff around because again, I'm still on top of everything else. I'm in the middle of a move still, but we're up here and we're doing this, so that's going to be so this is, yeah, certainly our. I really do like this carpet. It's sometimes hard. It sometimes hides dirt, but sometimes, you know, it kind of works in that sense. But folks did a lovely job setting this up here, and they certainly it makes a nice setup here for doing these shows and everything too. So we'll certainly check that here. There we go. There we go. Inspirational design. Oh yeah, right on. Excellent. Van Hedken, I was just seeing your comment. Yeah, it's not this isn't a die cast here. This is a model. This is a model that was put together again before Mike Demers there. I think I don't know who exactly produced it there, but really nice detail. I'll certainly post pictures on the Twitter there so you can see that as well there. But again, really much appreciated to the Demers family. Their contributions to the book were significant. Mike himself, you know, wrote the fan club newsletters. I made the newsletter that Mike wrote publicly available on my Twitter account this past August. So you get a more complete idea of like everything that happened in the background there in August. That wouldn't have been possible if he didn't commit that to paper. So the Demers family were a big part of that. They were not by any means the only part of it, but certainly big contributors on that one. So that would be the aspect there. So We get a more permanent studio set up or anything here, we're going to work on that. That's going to be another thing we're working on going into next year. We're going to have to find a good place for that and get a good setup, certainly from there. So without further ado, it is Throwback Weekend. We do always do our trivia segment, and we are certainly going to do that this time. And in honor of the fact that Chase Elliott had so many struggles as he did in the race today, we are going to bring back our Bill Elliott car. Now, when we last saw this one, not too long ago, we did have a few problems with this. I believe it was asking, it gave us the wrong answer to a question, and we pulled this bad boy behind the wall, and we parked it for the day because it just wasn't working right. So we're going to be doing a few more questions on this. We'll see if we get something more accurate here. We do have the other one down here as well, so we certainly have this one in relief as well. But we'll mix it up here a bit and get some of these. Yes, the McDonald's curse, it lives on. I didn't even think about that. Good catch there, 8206. We did not have the McDonald's car win the race again. They didn't have a throwback. They thought they could slide on by. And although Kenseth had a decent run, McDonald's car still hasn't won a race in the Cup Series in a points race since 1994. This being the 1999 version of Bill Elliott's car. Actually, kind of fits pretty well with this. It was just a year after he co-owned Jerry Nadeau's car. I wish this was intentional, but not entirely. That he co-owned the number 13 car. The team pretty much attempted the 500 in 1999 against this car, but pretty much folded after that point. But Bill Elliott's going to be that one there. Alrighty. Oh, good. The battery's still working. Okay. So, trivia questions. First trivia question of the evening. Who won the first Busch Clash? Question mark. Okay. Who won the first Busch Clash? That is our question. The first one for today. Who won the first Busch Clash? Go ahead and jump in the comments. Go ahead and make your first comment. Don't try to look it up on Racing Reference. Just go ahead and make your first guess. Who won the first Busch Clash? And we'll see. Excuse me. We'll see if this one gives us the correct answer. Might not. Sometimes you get some trick questions here, and that's going to certainly be the situation, perhaps. So we'll find out. All right, we got guesses for Yarborough, Waltrip, Dale Sr., Buddy Baker, Jeff Bodine. Oh, ooh, I like that. Motorsports fan. Good point there. With the curse ends after 27 years since 1994. That's a good point. That could be one there too. By the way, I really like the diecast again that you mentioned. I think it was you that made the All Might diecast custom car. Really appreciate it. I like that one a lot. I definitely saved those pictures for sure. Check out Motorsports Fans Twitter there if you haven't seen that there before. I just hit the repeat button instead of the correct one here. Hang on. Okay, who won the first Busch Clash? And the answer is Buddy Baker. Buddy Baker is indeed the correct answer. Maserati 9, you were quickest on the gun there again. Andrew Hayes in a close second. Bruce Holloway there as well. So got all of you there. Yes, Buddy Baker is the correct answer. Okay, next question. Oh, okay. It's just repeating. I'm getting used to hitting the right. It figures. Only I would find something with 2 buttons and hit the wrong button. So, okay, come on. Come on, Bill. I know Chase crashed tonight, but we gotta get the next question. Okay, there we go. Okay, next question. Here we go. Where did Bill Elliott finish in the last race at North Wilkesboro? Ooh, a throwback question indeed. Where did Bill Elliott finish in the last race at North Wilkesboro? Do not look at Racing Reference. Don't Google it. Just go ahead and try to guess. No such thing as a bad guess. Where did Bill Elliott finish in the last race at North Wilkesboro? We're talking 1996 when he was driving the 94. Not this paint scheme, but the same sponsor. Where did Bill Elliott finish? What position number? In the last Cup Series race at North Wilkesboro? I guess it's for 4th, 12th, 2nd, last, 7th, 9th, 8th, 12th, 14th, 6th, 15th, and 5th. We got several guesses. What is the answer? I don't really recall right off the bat. The answer is 21st. 20. I don't think anybody got that. 21st is the correct answer. 4th, 12th, 2nd, last. Let's see. How many cars were in the field? Maybe that'll be, I don't think it was just 21 cars. It probably was like 32. And let's verify this. We're going to, well, fact check it, I guess you could say. Yes, indeed. Started 12th, finished 21st. He was the last car 2 laps down. There were 37 cars in the field, and Derek Cope finished in the last spot. There you go. Yeah, no, that was a tricky one. That was a tricky one. Bruce Holloway, yeah, you're a little on the high side, but there you go. All right, next question. Who was the first driver to win the, okay, let's do the Busch Clash question. Back to back. Ah, okay, years. Okay, it's a trick question. Who was the first driver to win the Busch Clash in back-to-back years? Again, don't look it up. So not the same question we had before, but who was the first driver to win the Busch Clash back-to-back years? We got 2 guesses for Buddy Baker. We got one for Senior, Bonnet, Senior, Waltrip. All righty. Any other guesses on here? Probably Dale Senior. Probably double reversal fake. Yeah, it could be. It could be. Could be. Is it going to try? Is it trying to trip us up? Make sure I didn't miss any of your other guys' comments here. I know I was looking away from the screen here a little bit earlier. Looks like I'm up to date on a lot of these. Okay, good. Good. All right, let me scroll down here. Kenny Schrader. Let's see. The answer is Neil Bonnet. Neil Bonnet. Always good to have a Neil Bonnet question. Neil Bonnet, Maserati 9. You got it right off the gun there. Neil Bonnet. Anybody else get it there? There you go. Yep, Neil Bonnet is the correct answer. First one to win it back to back. Oh, okay. I think I just hit the question again. Win the Busch Clash back to back. Okay. All right. Question, answer. All right. Next. Okay, there we go. All righty. What is the length of Richmond International Raceway? What is the length of Richmond International Raceway, where we're heading next week? Boy, this thing is really on the nose this week. What is the length of Richmond International Raceway? I would assume today, this is again 1999, so pretty much, unless there's any substantial change, should be about what you would think it would be. What is the length of Richmond International Raceway is the way it's worded. Did you see Austin Dillon's grid penalty was because the team put the front tires on backwards? Wasn't aware of that. Interesting. Alrighty, and the answer is indeed 3/4 of a mile. 3/4 of a mile. Blake Thiemann. I think you got it just ahead of Zach. Oh, nope. Earlier. Hang on. There we go. MLG Pro Swag. You were the first there. Ultimate 23 Dragon. Andrew Hayes. Beanboy 89. Blake Thiemann. Zach Winkle. Stephen Robert. Maserati 9. Yes. You got it specifically, LaJoy fan? 3/4 of a mile. You did get it in the right wording. Yeah. If I really wanted to be real picky, it spelled out 3/4. So I guess if you want to go complete there we go. All right. Where did Bill Elliott finish in the first race at the Brickyard 400? Ooh, here we go. Where did Bill Elliott finish in the first Brickyard 400, 1994? Where did he finish? We're looking for a number. We got 8th, 11th, 25th. Where did Bill Elliott finish in the first Brickyard 400? I'm sorry, I'm a little parched here. I should have hydrated more before the start of this. Bring out the Paul Menard chalice. Okay. 15th, 5th, 10th, 2nd, 42nd. The answer is 3rd. 3rd is the correct answer. Stephen C., you got it. Oh, nope. Earlier. Hang on. And Jack Garland, you got it first. There you go. Jack Garland, you got it first. Looks to be. And I think it was just you. No. It's you and Stephen C. That's right. Third place. So, yeah. I mean, you figure Bill Elliott was really good at Pocono. And I think that translated really well to Indianapolis. And, of course, he won it, but not until 2002. Yeah, certainly that one. The first one, we're talking 1994. Well, yeah, not in the 94. I guess that's the tricky part. I was talking about 1994, the inaugural Brickyard 400. All righty, next question. Does NASCAR have rain tires for road courses? So as of 1999, does NASCAR have rain tires for road courses? So as of this particular year, keep that in mind. Does NASCAR have rain tires for road courses? Is it yay or nay? Alrighty. We got yeses and nos. We got yeses and nos. And the answer is indeed yes, is the correct answer. Andrew Hayes, you're correct. So as of 1999, they did have rain tires for the road courses. That's a little bit of a tricky one. It's not a great question. These ones where he finishes in certain races. Those are fascinating. I guess I should have stuck out with this. When was that? Was that our Kansas show? The last place streak there with Ryan Preece? It was one of those. I think it was during the day though. I remember. It was Bristol maybe. It was one of those. We had problems with this and then we just kind of parked it. But we have dusted it off for Throwback Weekend, and we'll make sure that we do some of that here today. Alrighty. Who won the Busch Clash back-to-back years in 1989 and 1990? So another Busch Clash question. Who won the Busch Clash in back-to-back years in 1989 and 1990? 1989 and 1990. I guess this is for Schrader and Bonnet and Senior and Baker and Bonnet. Okay, so he's pretty split among just a couple of different drivers here. We'll find out what the correct answer is. Oh gosh, it's 8:30 over here on the West Coast. I know it's a bit later over there for you folks there, but hope you're having a good and safe Labor Day weekend. It's quite warm over here. I'm sure some of you in other regions or those of you here know very much about the heat wave that we're having. I didn't spend any time outside today, I'll tell you that, because it's been triple digits over here. But definitely hope you're staying safe under the circumstances there. Alrighty, and the answer is Ken Schrader. Ken Schrader indeed. 1989 and 1990. In 1990, he beat Greg Sachs in a Days of Thunder car during the filming, as Greg Sachs actually in a green and yellow City Chevrolet in that one. Very short races back when they were literally like 20 laps, and very common for last place finisher to still be under power in most often. Yeah, Ken Schrader, exactly. Yeah, extremely underrated. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, Super K was he was fun to watch. One of those ageless veterans there for sure. Talk about a throwback. Alrighty, what starting position has the most wins at Atlanta Motor Speedway? So, okay, we'll say as of 1999, and don't Google it. What starting position has the most wins at Atlanta Motor Speedway? What starting spot has the most wins at Atlanta Motor Speedway? Bill Elliott cars coming through, but it is Throwback Weekend, so I think there's something special in the air, and it's getting us right back to where it needs to be. All right. 4th, 5th, 7th, outside pole, 14th, pole, 1st. Any other guesses on here? They still racing the West on dirt? Good. I'm glad Schrader's still out there. Alrighty. What starting spot has the most wins at the Atlanta Motor Speedway as of 1999? Well, I'll add that last part because obviously this thing can't, well, as far as I know, it can't predict the future. We will perhaps not test the fates on that. Alrighty. And the answer is starting position number 1, the pole. It is indeed the pole. Dusty DeBoer, MLG Pro Swag, right off the bat, you got it. On the pole. It is indeed the pole. Alrighty. Who does Bill Elliott credit for giving him his biggest career break? Who does Bill Elliott credit for giving him his biggest career break? The biggest break in his career, the biggest opportunity he had to advance his career. Who does Bill Elliott credit for giving him his biggest break? That is our next question here. You got guesses for Harry Melling. Good guess. Jared Johnson, Harold Melling, Ernie Elliott, Still looking for qualifying video of 95 Atlanta Spring. Yeah, qualifying videos are fun to watch. That's another thing I'm hoping to kind of use a lot of in this field filler series. So I've been doing some stuff on that. Kind of been messing with some graphics too this week, which has been kind of fun. All right, Cale Yarborough, Harry Melling, Junior Johnson. All right. And the answer is Harry Melling. Indeed, Harry Melling, owner of the number 9 car, or the collaboration with the number 9 car, the Bill Elliott team. Harry Melling is indeed the correct answer. Other ones are good guesses. Though. Junior Johnson would have been a good guess too. I mean, certainly the break that he had driving the number 11 car, as high-powered of a team as that was in 1992, didn't ultimately end up being his ride for very long, just 3 seasons. But certainly his biggest break, the Harry Melling ride, the iconic number 9. You see a lot of footage of that just tonight in Darlington. The original Winston Million winning car from 1985 is at the Darlington Hall of Fame just off the backstretch. It's definitely one of those things that comes to mind. Yep, same number 9 that had the Cartoon Network car, the hood. Yep, you're exactly right, LaJoy fan. All right. What driver did Sterling Marlin replace at Morgan McClure Motorsports? What driver? Oh, now this is a little tricky. This is a little tricky. What driver did Sterling Marlin replace at Morgan McClure Motorsports? Now well, I'm not going to say more than that. I'm not going to say more than that. What driver did Sterling Marlin replace at Morgan McClure Motorsports? Okay, we have several guesses for Ernie Irvan. We have one for Rick Wilson. We have one for Joe Nemechek. Yeah, see, LaJoy fan. You know, it's, hang on. Who did Sterling Marlin replace at Morgan McClure Motorsports? Don't look it up. Try to, see, it's harder. It's a harder question. Now, I don't know if this is going to say it, but I have a feeling that it's probably going to be somebody else. Yeah, so try to guess. See, hang on. See, it's coming around. It's coming around. Who did Sterling Marlin replace at Morgan McClure? I'm going to pull it up here just to see if this thing gets it right. Who indeed did he replace at Morgan McClure Motorsports? And here we go. Okay, so we're going to hit the button here. The button says the answer is, the button says Ernie Irvan, which a lot of you, which would technically be correct. Technically. But. And I think only one of you got that one correct here now. Now it's like, yep, see, exactly. Stephen Robert, you got it correct. Jimmy Hensley drove the number 4 at Morgan McClure for the last 2 starts of 1993. He drove it at Phoenix, finished 32nd, and finished 25th at Atlanta. Now, I have to ask, I don't want to put you on the spot. Did you know that one offhand? Because I didn't. I was thinking John Andretti or maybe Jeff Purvis, but it turns out it's neither of those. What happened was, yeah, at Darlington for the Southern 500, Ernie Irvan left to take over the number 28 after Davey Allison passed away in July. After that, Jeff Purvis drove the number 4 in 5 consecutive starts at Darlington, Richmond, Dover, Martinsville, and North Wilkesboro, and Joe Nemechek drove it at Charlotte and at Rockingham before Jimmy Hensley drove it for the final 2 starts of the season. Quite the season for Hensley. That's a different one there. Yeah, Stephen Robert. Yeah, good on you, man. Good on you. You get kudos on that one for sure. Yeah, I would have gotten that wrong. Those of you saying Purvis, I was kind of leaning towards your direction. But yes, so technically the correct answer would be Jimmy Hensley. So yeah, so it's close, but it's not. I mean, I know that he was intended to replace it. I guess what you have to look up is when exactly was the news. When did the news break that Marlin was going to take over the number 4 car? It sounded like it was probably, I would assume it would be after the season ended. But sometimes these deals come together before the year is over with. But it definitely makes something interesting here. I could have sworn Andretti drove the 4 in one of those, but it's not showing that here on Racing Reference. Yeah, it's just showing Purvis, Nemechek. It's interesting. They picked 3 different drivers with J as their first name, or J is the first letter of their first name. Purvis, Nemechek, and Hensley. So yeah, no, that one's a tricky one. That was a tricky one. Okay, well with that one, we're gonna swap to the other one here because that's a really good one to leave that one on. We'll do a couple questions on this one here, since we still got a few people in here, and we'll probably wrap this up here in a little bit. Yeah, I don't think Andretti drove the. I mean, it somehow seemed like he did. I must be thinking of somebody else. But yeah, tricky one. Tricky. Okay, so we'll do a couple here on this one just to kind of round it out here, just for the full sake, because we have Okay, so we're gonna do a couple more on this one to wrap it up here, because we always do the trivia questions on this one. We may bring the Bill Elliott back in the cycle. Those were some good ones we had tonight, weren't they? We'll try to get some more of them shook out there. So we're back to, yes, Beanboy 89. Yeah, good old 15 seconds. So we'll do a few on here, and then we'll wrap up the show from there, because I know it's getting late for you guys, and I don't want you being quite up that late on Labor Day weekend here, so you can enjoy your holiday. So again, pick your category that you'd like here. Again, it is NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. And while you're doing your picks, I'm going to drink a little here. Alrighty. Okay. We got 1, 2, 3 for teams. We have 1, 2, 3 for drivers. We have 2, 3. Okay, we got a couple for the wild cards. Pretty well split. I drove the 4-car one race in 2000. Okay, there you go. Interesting. Oh yeah, 2000. Yeah, that whole time period is really weird. That must be what I was thinking of. But obviously, it wasn't the Kodak car by then, so it was a different scenario. Anything on flips? Yeah, it could be. You never know. That might probably be the wild card. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm seeing 3 for drivers and 3 for teams. Let's do it. Well, let's see. We'll do a couple on each. Let's do that rather than draw that out further. We'll do one on teams here. Okay, here we go. We'll do one for teams. What major sponsor did Bill Elliott win the NASCAR? Oh boy, this thing already knew we were doing the Bill Elliott car. That kind of knocked me for a loop. What major sponsor did Bill Elliott win the NASCAR Winston Cup Championship with? What major sponsor did Bill Elliott win the NASCAR Winston Cup Championship with? Anything on numbers? You got this. Yeah, Steven. Yeah, you're the ringer in the group. You and Maserati 9 seem to get some of the more hardcore questions here. Maserati 9 is really quick on the gun here, so it's going to be challenging. What major sponsor did Bill Elliott win the NASCAR Winston Cup Championship with? And the answer is indeed Coors. Looks like the field pretty much got that. Coors indeed. Yeah, be smelled not quite the Budweiser one, but Coors. All right, next question. Who is nicknamed, quote, Mr. Ford? Who is nicknamed Mr. Ford, presumably in NASCAR? Who is nicknamed Mr. Ford? Your guess is on that. Edsel Ford. I mean, it says nicknamed, but you know what? It could be a trick question. It could be somebody whose last name actually was Ford. Who is nicknamed Mr. Ford? That's the full question. F-O-R-D. Judy Donlavey, good guess. Jack Roush, Mike Ford, Bud Moore, Mark Martin. Could be any of these. I like the guesses for Donlavey. I don't know. Glenn Wood. These are all good guesses. I really do mean that. I don't just say that to fill the air. These really are good guesses. Not entirely sure, but it seems like it could be one of these legacy teams, but we'll find out. Alrighty, and the answer to the question is Jack Roush. Jack Roush is the correct answer. Blake Thiemann, looks like you got it there. Jack Roush is the correct one. All right. There we go. Okay. How many years, next question, how many years had Jack Roush been an owner before he fielded 5 Cup teams? How many years had Jack Roush been an owner before he fielded 5 Cup teams? That is our next question. Don't look it up. There you go. Yeah, Blake Thielen. Yeah, right on it. Right on, man. How many years had Jack Roush been an owner before he fielded 5 Cup teams? What if Lake Speed stayed at 28 after Allison passed away? I mean, it would have been interesting. I mean, Lake Speed, Lake Speed's an interesting personality for sure. The owner-driver aspect and how far back his career goes as well. That's kind of the surprising aspect of it. How many years had Jack Roush been an owner before he fielded 5 Cup teams? We have several guesses here. We got between about 8 and 15, it looks like. And the answer is 11. 11 is the correct answer. Stephen C. Looks like he got it first. Stephen C. Zach Winkle, RD Fox 76. There you go. Excellent. 11 is indeed the correct answer. All right. Now, since we had some guesses for drivers, we'll do a few more from drivers category, and then we'll probably wrap up from there. Our drivers category, the first question on that. What California driver was the 1969 NASCAR Winston Cup Rookie of the Year? What California driver was the 1969 NASCAR Winston Cup Rookie of the Year? What California driver was the 1969 NASCAR Winston Cup Rookie of the Year? That is our next question. Okay, we got one for Ray Elder, Freddie Lorenzen, Joel, Beast of Metal, you always make this so challenging. Joel Kiviranta? I don't believe it was J.D. McDuffie, Ben Hedkin. There you go. Dick Brooks. What California driver was 1969 NASCAR Winston Cup Rookie of the Year? 1969. Nice. What California driver was 1969 Winston Cup Rookie of the Year? The answer is Dick Brooks. Dick Brooks. Stephen Robert, were you the first one? I think you, yeah, wow, goodness. That's another one on you, man. Dick Brooks is indeed the right. It seemed like Ray Elder. It could have sworn it was. I think he won a race at Riverside that year or around that time. But the answer is indeed Dick Brooks, Richard Brooks. There you go. Can you see that? There you go. Bingo. Yeah, it's very close to it. You're right, Ultimate 23 Dragon. That is very close to when JD was starting to race, at least full time. But that would be a different one. Alrighty. Ooh, this is a good one too. What year in the 60s did Glenn Wood win his last event as a driver? Saw a lot of good Wood Brothers throwbacks today. This is a good way to tie that together. What year in the 60s did Glenn Wood win his last event as a driver? Don't look it up. Just go ahead and guess there. What year in the 60s did Glenn Wood win his last event as a driver? All right, I guess it's 63, 62, 67, 61. We pretty much have most of the years here, so we'll find out. More or less got the name right, Piece of Metal. That's good to know. Alrighty, and the answer is 1963. Dusty DeBoer, you got it right off the bat there. 1963. Yeah, Steven, yeah, if you're running the historical site, I can see that. That's you definitely keeping it on the old noggin there pretty quickly. Stephen Robert, yeah, exactly. Alrighty. Get a couple more drivers' questions here. Who was the NASCAR Winston Cup champion in 1988? Who was the NASCAR Winston Cup champion for 1988? Go ahead and make your guesses right there. Guesses for Bill Elliott. Bill Elliott, indeed. You guys got it already. Of course, the answer is indeed Bill Elliott. See, again, I don't know if there's like a telepathic link between these two or something, but yeah, you can't plan these things, folks. That's just kind of the way it shakes out. All right, let's try to get this. I want to kind of end one on a harder question here. What driver drove a Days of Thunder camera car when he was a rookie? What driver drove a Days of Thunder camera car when he was a rookie? That is our next question. What driver drove a Days of Thunder camera car when he was a rookie? All right, we get Bobby Hamilton. Oh, can't fool you guys. You guys got it. Of course, the answer is indeed Bobby Hamilton. He was driving the Exxon car. Featured also in our video Why Days of Thunder is Awesome. And, of course, the behind-the-scenes featurette that was featured on ESPN that year is a big part of that project. Indeed, Bobby Hamilton driving the Exxon car at Phoenix was actually running so well that they actually had to tell him to run further back so they can get some better shots. Alrighty. What North Carolina town did Bobby Isaac call home? So look it up. What North Carolina town did Bobby Isaac call home? Yeah. Tricky. Tricky. Maybe. What North Carolina town did Bobby Isaac call home? We have ones for Charlotte and Hickory, Catawba, Cofield, Kannapolis, Winston-Salem, Mooresville, Welcome. Wow, we also got different answers from everybody on this one. Salem, Concord. What North Carolina town did Bobby Isaac call home? Alrighty. And the answer is indeed Catawba. Catawba. Maserati 9. I'll count yours there as well. You got the spelling a little different. Stephen Robert, you got it on there real quick there as well. Catawba. There you go. Boom. Alrighty. We'll probably wrap up with this next one here, folks. We're going to do one more. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, this will be the last question for tonight. One more question here on this. What driver received French lessons in his race car in a 1997 ESPN commercial? Good throwback question here for you, folks. Throwback commercials. What driver received French lessons in his race car in a 1997 ESPN commercial? What driver received French lessons in his race car in a 1997 ESPN commercial? Don't look it up. Just go ahead and guess. Oh, yeah. See, it's tricky. R.D. Fox, there you go. The senior and Jarrett and Gordon and Biffle and Rusty. See, again, it could be anybody. It could be any. This is literally a driver question. This is not a wild card question, but it plays like a wild card question. Yeah, well, speaking of French during the race, yeah, talking to Johnny Sauter on that one. What driver received French lessons in his race car in a 1997 ESPN commercial? Ron Hornaday? Yeah, maybe. Mark Martin? Maybe. All right. I'll go ahead and let this one sit for a little bit longer because it's our last one tonight, and then we'll jump into this. What driver received French lessons in his race car for a 1997 ESPN commercial? I say French myself there, but I'm afraid haven't used it too often yet. But it's still there. It's still there, drips and drabs. You never know when you need certain things. I think it helped. It does help one's writing a bit. You have to look at grammar a little more critically. So that's kind of always the helpful part of it, aside from learning the language itself. Alrighty, last question of the night. What driver received French lessons in his race car in a 1997 ESPN commercial? And the answer is Dale Jarrett. Dale Jarrett. We saw him just in the broadcast tonight. Could have reenacted it from the broadcast there. Maserati 9, you had it real early on there. Dale Jarrett is indeed the correct answer. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought there. Yeah, Dale Jarrett for sure. All righty. Well, again, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in tonight. I hope you had a very enjoyable throwback weekend. I know I certainly did. Between the Jerry Nadeau throwback, I'm glad to be able to bring this back out of storage here. Would have liked better to be at the track there, but I know we're kind of working through all this as well. So we're working on, again, for those of you just coming in here, looking at some more coverage here. Probably going to be next year, since Phoenix looks like it's just not going to be possible this year. Possibly Las Vegas, but that's going to be kind of a stretch too, so it's going to be hard to say. But any of you that's in the Patreon that's been in there since Fontana, we're certainly going to carry you over to the next door magnet for that. In the meantime, the one positive thing, of course, this allows me to have more time to work on the new video series, Rise of the Field Fillers, which just announced this past Thursday. First episode is well on its way towards completion. I just got the graphics and stuff. I was kind of working on that. So I really appreciate you guys spreading the word on that. We'll get some more content for you coming up. Those of you who are in the Patreon, patreon.com/LascarOnBruck, any level that you're in on that, you'll be able to have advanced access there. Working on some more content for you guys as well. So it's going to be a pretty busy fall here anyway, and we're going to get a lot of more stuff out there for you guys. And of course, we'll be back here for these other shows here for our post-race show. Next week's show is going to be technically it's going to be after Saturday's race in Richmond, second round of the round of 16 for the Cup Series, cutoff race for the Truck Series, and getting pretty close to that for the Xfinity Series, and we'll find out some other storylines from there and some last place finishers. So in the meantime, again, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in tonight, and thank you for your support on the website and everything there. At LascarOnBruck is the Twitter. Patreon.com/LascarOnBruck is the Patreon. This is my primary YouTube channel, and any other information, we'll have that up to you there. So have a happy and safe Labor Day weekend, folks, and we will see you next week. Remember, folks, last happens.